See Her Royal Highness Princess Catherine.
Named as, and it's true, the most powerful woman in the world. She was awfully good, and she's been amazing. And this is a beautiful, strong, wonderful woman.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel where the high-stakes dance between world leaders and royal elegance never fails to steal the spotlight. Today, we are diving headfirst into a moment that has diplomats straightening their ties, palace insiders clutching their pearls, and social media exploding like fireworks on the 4th of July. Fresh off a whirlwind state visit to the United Kingdom that had tongues wagging from Fleet Street to Foggy Bottom, President Donald Trump marched into the United Nations General Assembly with his signature bravado. The atmosphere was heavy with tension, the kind that crackles just before a storm. His speech, delivered on September 23, 2025, was a masterclass in bold declarations and unfiltered fire, because amid all the geopolitical thunder, Trump unleashed a line so unexpected, so out of left field, that it has completely rewritten the headlines overnight. He transformed the world's most iconic podium into a stage for royal reverence, declaring none other than the future Queen Catherine as the most powerful woman on the planet. Yes, you heard that right. In a room packed with world leaders, we unpack this jaw-dropper piece by piece. Hit that like button if you're already hooked. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single ripple from these seismic shifts. Because make no mistake, this is history in the making. And it all began with tea, trumpets, and Windsor Castle. So, let's rewind the tape to the days leading up to this UN bombshell. Because when it comes to Trump and the royals, nothing ever happens in a vacuum. This has been brewing for weeks. And trust me, by the time we reach the heart of that speech, you'll see why this moment was not just flattery. It was a statement, a signal, and perhaps the most surprising plot twist in a year already full of them. The build-up to Trump's UK visit felt like the opening act to a blockbuster. With his second term in full swing, the president had been circling the globe, patching alliances and flexing muscle. But the United Kingdom, that was personal. Trump has long worn his admiration for the monarchy like a badge of honor, reminiscing about state dinners and stolen moments with history's grandest figures. According to insiders, the trip had been planned months in advance, carefully slotted after Labor Day to maximize pomp and avoid clashing with the chaos of the full UN session. And what a spectacle it turned out to be. From the instant Air Force One touched down at Stansted Airport on September 15th, the cameras couldn't look away. Trump, ever the showman, stepped off the plane in a sharp navy suit. With Melania by his side in a cream-sheathed dress radiating understated elegance, crowds gathered along the route to London, some waving flags. Others simply curious cheered with a mix of genuine warmth and that uniquely British brand of reserved enthusiasm. But let's be honest, the true magic, the part that would dominate dinner table talk for days, was always destined to unfold at Windsor Castle, that ancient fortress, with its towers piercing the sky like medieval sentinels, has witnessed more power plays than history books can record. And on this visit, it became the stage for a clash of worlds, the brash energy of American exceptionalism colliding with the quiet grace of royal tradition. Insiders revealed that the itinerary was packed tighter than a debutante's dance card. A ceremonial welcome from King Charles III and Queen Camilla. A glittering state banquet beneath chandeliers, private teas in the state apartments, and even a solemn wreath laying at the memorial of the late Queen Elizabeth II. Trump, who once called Elizabeth his favorite person, was reportedly as giddy as a child at Christmas upon arrival. But as the visit unfolded, it became clear this wasn't just a routine meet and greet. This was a charm offensive wrapped in velvet ropes. And at its very heart stood the Princess of Wales herself. Catherine, radiant in a series of bespoke ensembles, blending classic tailoring with modern flair, quickly emerged as the star of the show. Castle whispers painted a picture of easy, rapport-shared laughter over canapes, moments that felt less like diplomacy and more like old friends. Reconnecting. What no one could have predicted was how those fleeting exchanges would echo all the way to the UN stage, transforming a routine speech into a global sensation. Behind the carefully prepared drafts of his UN address, whispers of a quiet fascination shaped the tone. One aide later admitted that Trump kept circling back to her not in any unsettling way, but in genuine admiration. To him, she had become the gold standard for how to carry grace under pressure. And so, as the speech evolved, subtle threads of transatlantic respect were woven in. Yet no one predicted the flourish he would deliver, the unscripted detour that would send shockwaves through diplomacy. As the General Assembly approached, New York throbbed with anticipation. Motorcades carved through avenues, barricades bloomed like steel weeds, and helicopters hovered above the skyline. Inside the UN headquarters, a glittering hive of glass and marble perched on the East River, the mood was charged, cautious, alive. Delegates adjusted papers, translators tested headsets, while security scoured every corner. Trump arrived early. His navy blue tie cut sharp against the cameras, his stride brisk handshakes lined up like dominoes. Macron offered a weary smile, Schultz a curt nod, Modi a warm pat on the back. It was the parade of power. Yet though the room brimmed with presidents and premiers, his thoughts carried across the Atlantic. The royals were thousands of miles away, but in his mind, their presence was vivid. When he mounted the podium, notes clutched in hand, the chamber stilled. What version of Trump would the world see today? The fiery disruptor, the dealmaker, the showman. The opening carried his signature bravado, a rallying cry wrapped in diplomatic silk. He hailed America's resurgence, touted economic victories, and hurled barbed lines at global bureaucracy. Delegates shifted in their seats, some nodding, others frowning. The rhetoric was familiar, unapologetic, polarizing, impossible to ignore, and then subtly, almost imperceptibly, the tone began to shift. A pivot from iron to velvet, from geopolitics to something more personal. Trump spoke of alliances not as burdens, but as bonds born of admiration. He began to name-drop nations and leaders with the theatrical charm of a late-night host. Every mention carrying both praise and warning. Then came the pause. He leaned closer to the lectern, his grip firm, his voice dropping into a lower register. "Folks," he said, drawing the room into his orbit, "I just returned from a remarkable visit to the United Kingdom. Tremendous people, tremendous history. And the royal family class acts, every one of them." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Diplomats exchanged glances. Heads of state are not in the habit of saluting monarchs from this stage. But Trump pressed on, undeterred. He spoke of the Windsor welcome, the candlelit halls, the toasts, the grandeur softened by warmth. He called King Charles sharp as they come, Queen Camilla gracious and welcoming, and Prince William future king material. No doubt, polite applause followed, the chamber acknowledging the unusual but courteous tribute. His eyes scanned the crowd, milking the pause like a seasoned performer. "But if I may," he continued, "there is one person in particular I have to mention." His words slowed, deliberate. "The Princess of Wales, Catherine. What a woman! Grace under fire. Strength that never quits. I sat beside her at dinner, looked her in the eye, and I thought, this is power. Real power. Not the kind you shout about, but the kind that quietly shapes destinies." He let the silence breathe, then delivered the line that detonated like a cannon shot. "Ladies and gentlemen, in my book, she is the most powerful woman in the world today." The chamber froze. Pens clattered to the floor. Gasps escaped from the British delegation. In a hall built for treaties and tariffs, Trump had elevated a royal princess above presidents, prime ministers, and CEOs. It wasn't flattery, it was heresy in the house of realpolitik. In that instant, the speech transcended policy. It became personal, profound, a bridge of respect stretching from Manhattan to Mayfair. Reactions ricocheted across the room. Some delegates chuckled nervously, others scribbled frantically in their notes. The French ambassador raised an eyebrow. The Saudi prince nodded gravely. And the British envoy? She smiled, quiet vindication glowing across her face. Trump pressed on, steering back into safer political waters, but the moment had already branded itself into memory. 32 minutes in total, but it was that single line that stretched into eternity. Clips would loop endlessly, headlines would flare, and before the president even left the stage, the ripple had begun. Corridors buzzed with disbelief. A European diplomat texted across encrypted lines. He just crowned her. Cable news cut away mid-commercial, anchors stumbling over adjectives. On CNN, one quipped, "Did Donald Trump just make Kate Middleton queen of the world?" On Fox, it was gospel. Real leaders recognize real leaders. And online, the firestorm roared. Within hours, #Trump praises Kate surged to the top of global trends. Millions of impressions cascaded across platforms. Edits, memes, crown emojis, even digital tiaras flooded timelines. Admirers saw sincerity. Critics saw theatrics. But no one ignored it by dawn in London. The palace phones were ringing off the hook. Courtiers traded wide-eyed glances. By noon, Kensington Palace issued a polite, measured statement of gratitude. Yet Catherine's true response came silently. At a school event later that day, she wore a modest smile, subtle, but enough to speak volumes. William, ever the protector, was spotted whispering to aides, his face a mix of pride and disbelief. The world had shifted. And though the storm of reactions was only beginning, one thing was already clear. This was no ordinary compliment. It was an anointing, expected, unorthodox, unforgettable. Orthodox, unforgettable. The moment did not end in that UN chamber. It began there. Within minutes, clips of Trump's striking words were captioned, and shared across every platform imaginable. The phrase, "most powerful woman in the world," surged through timelines, carried not by official press briefings, but by millions of ordinary users who could hardly believe what they had just heard. In an age where perception is power, Catherine's stock rose higher than any headline could measure. American anchors spoke with astonishment. Did Trump just crown the Princess of Wales? European front pages draped her image alongside bold headlines. Kate conquers the UN in Asia. Analysts questioned the balance of symbolism and diplomacy. Was Britain now projecting soft power through Catherine rather than Charles? In the Middle East, commentators saw a lesson in humility, a leader praising someone who wielded no army, no office, only grace. But inside London, the mood was layered. Palisades watched with fascination and unease. Publicity of this scale could not be ignored, yet it had to be managed carefully. The monarchy, after all, thrives on mystique, not on being dragged into daily politics. Catherine herself, unshaken as ever, slipped into routine. School runs, charity meetings, quiet evenings with her family. Yet she could not escape the fact that she was now the world's headline. Commentators rushed in with their verdicts. Some praised the moment as proof of monarchy's enduring value. Catherine, wrote one columnist, has become Britain's most effective ambassador without ever signing a treaty. The Atlantic called it a sideshow, a Trumpian diversion that distracted from substance. And yet even critics conceded that in a hall often remembered for fiery words and fractured alliances. This brief tribute stood apart. For the monarchy, the opportunity was golden. Donations poured into Catherine's cancer fund after her team cleverly linked Trump's praise with a midday announcement. From Hollywood producers to Midwest families, wallets opened, proving again that words wield wallets. Social media, meanwhile, exploded with memes, edits, and tributes. One viral clip of Catherine photoshopped with a crown at the Security Council hit over 500,000 shares. Taylor Swift weighed in with a crown emoji. Elon Musk quipped, "Finally, someone gets a quiet beats noise," and in quieter circles, too, it resonated. Parenting networks praised Catherine's balance of royal duty and motherhood. Women's leadership forums dissected the moment, debating whether Trump's words uplifted or constrained. Some saw empowerment. Others asked, powerful yes but, on whose terms? It was more than gossip. It was a global conversation sparked by a single sentence. Meanwhile, strategists in Washington toasted the line as a political match. One aide admitted privately, he went from firebrand to fanboy in 30 seconds flat. Republicans on Capitol Hill sought to channel the glow into domestic battles. For them, it humanized Trump, proof that even he could bend the knee, if only in words. In Paris, Macron's advisors dismissed it as a charming interlude. In Beijing, state media downplayed it, wary of Western symbolism. Yet in London, jubilation reigned, if laced with caution. For Prince William, it was a subtle yet undeniable win. His partnership with Catherine gleamed brighter than ever. Analysts predicted a future White House visit timed perfectly. It would not just be pageantry. It would be power, modernized and mutual. But behind the celebrations, whispers of caution lingered. Trump's unpredictability loomed. Today's praise could be tomorrow's target. Insiders urged vigilance. Leverage the lift, but guard the mystique. For Catherine, the challenge was greater still. Every future appearance would now echo with uncomparisons. Every gesture scrutinized for signs of that new global mantle. Yet the net result gleamed undeniable. In a weary world, fractured by wars, crises, and disillusionment, the vision of a future queen praised for strength, dignity, and empathy struck a rare chord. It was, as one Windsor watcher put it, a reminder that power is not always about armies or economies. Sometimes it is about presence. Sometimes it is about her. And so, that speech, stormy in its beginning, stunning in its end, became more than a diplomatic address. It became a story of convergence, a president and a princess, each reshaping their roles in a changing world. For Trump, it was an unlikely moment of humility. For Catherine, an unspoken coronation. Together, they sketched a blueprint. Power not as a solo sprint. But for now, one truth glitters above the noise. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, walked out of that chamber, crowned not with jewels, but with influence. And that crown, silent yet luminous, may prove heavier and more enduring than any worn before.